A very good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Dev.
So, shall we start with the today's webinar?
Yes, yes.
So, we will be covering the new income tax bill 2025, which has been also been passed by the Parliament in our this series of webinar. In
No, not yet
today's,
passed. It has been just introduced. The bill has been introduced.
I stand corrected and apologies. Uh, So we will be discussing the Income Tax Bill 2025. Uh, in this particular webinar, we will be just be going through the basic overview and just touching upon the skeletal of the bill. So to start off with, sir, my first question to you uh, would be that what are the objectives which is there behind the introduction of this Income Tax Bill 2025, sir?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Talking about the objectives, the first and foremost objective which this bill seeks to achieve is the complexity of language in the present act. And we know that income tax law has become increasingly bulky over time with its traditional type of drafting and numerous amendments from time to time. The existing income tax was introduced in 1961, and thereafter, because the income tax act is a dynamic legislation, so it requires regular updating and amendments to reflect the nation's changing economic, social, and political realities. Now, one may argue that why there should be a change in the act every year. Why can't there be a consistency over a period of time and then change it after seeing whether it meets the intended objectives? But nevertheless, the Income Tax Act is one such law which goes through regular updation, regular amendments, not only to keep pace with the changing economic reality, but also many a times to counter the judgments. We all know that from time to time, if the revenue loses a matter before, say, consistently they are losing a issue over a issue in the tribunal or in the high court, or if the matter goes to Supreme Court, and ultimately if a particular provision is so interpreted or suppose struck down also, then many a times to counter such a situation, retrospective amendment is made. And from time to time, whenever the department faces adversity in the court of law, they goes on changing the amendment. So there are various objectives which are met with the changes. Criminal and other civil law does not go such frequent updating because they more or less reflect the social realities of the day. Even with respect to the new criminal laws which has been introduced, we all know that more or less it has been cosmetic and there is no significant change as such, even in the text of the law. But with respect to the new income tax bill, I think the biggest complaint was the language. It is written in such a complex language. If you see the provisions, there is a cross-referencing. So one section, in order to understand the meaning of one particular provision or one section, you may have to refer to at least 3 or 4 different sections because it will have cross-reference to other sections or subsections. And there are numerous provisions which has become redundant because, for example, under section 80s, there were various tax intensive incentive provision for promotion of the industry and the trade. But over a period of time when they served their objective, they have become redundant. So there is a sunset clause in those provisions. But despite the sunset clause, they remain in the books because of the pending litigations. So there are numerous such provisions where they have been multiple times. For example, let us take the example of Section 148, 149, which has encountered several changes in last 10 years. And most of the litigations, if you see in the court of law, they are around section interpretation of section 148, 148A, 149, and all that, 147. So these frequent changes that from this date to this date, this provision will be effective. It was necessary to have a simplified law written in a very simple language, and which is what this new income tax bill seeks to achieve.
So in this regard, I had a question.
Yes.
It might be a bit political to ask at this stage, but I will still go with it. So
Yes.
when the ruling government, the central government, when it was in opposition, when the direct tax code was introduced back in the year 2009-10, it had opposed the direct tax code. But now, when it has come to power, the income tax bill has been introduced by the same party which was in the opposition and is currently the ruling dispensation of the country. So is there any difference there, and why, according to you, what was the reason as to they did not want to go with the direct tax code and instead they came up with a new income tax bill?
Okay. So I think I'll answer in very short, that because I don't want to make it a political sort of a debate. But I believe at that point of time, the objection was more to the form in which it was introduced, and there were objection to various provisions, but there was no objection to the idea as such. There was no objection to the idea of there being a new income tax code. And thereafter, when uh, the new government came in 2014, it was expected that they will probably eliminate the ideas they don't agree with and probably bring in the new provision. But for some reason or other, I don't know why it was junked altogether. But the direct tax code earlier also and now, which has been introduced, if you compare, there is a lot of similarity. So it is not that even though the new income tax bill 2025 is called as new income tax bill 2025, it is not called as direct tax code. So the name of the act does not change, but I don't think idea wise it has changed much, because in the direct tax code as well as in this new bill, there is a simplification of the language, reduction in the number of sections, and a lot of provisions have been shifted to the tables and the schedules to the act for ease of understanding.
Sir, as you said, the new income tax bill has made provisions more streamlined. In this regard, I actually had a question. It's more of asking for your opinion. Could there have been any substantive changes that could have been brought about to bring any such reform that was needed?
You see, it was very categorically stated by the government that the object of the bill is not to make any major policy change. So the policy wise, if you see, the soul of the act has remained the same. People complain about as to why there is no wholesale change to the act in the with respect to the policy and all that. But I believe that was not necessary at all, because if you see the structure of the income tax act, considering we have to accept that India is a diverse country, and with so much of diversity, there is a need to cater to the demand of the various sections of the society. And accordingly, you see, there are 5 heads of income in which the different category of income is grouped. And then on the basis of the demand of the various sections of the industry or the society or the social group, or say tribals, or say people from the northeastern countries, there are specific provisions to cater to their requirement and demand. So there has to be some complexity in the law. It cannot be all very simple, like in a country like UK, or a country like smaller countries, where the structure of the society itself is similar. If the structure of our society is complex, then the law to cater to their demand also has to have some complexity. So the complaint, I mean, the major complaint which this particular new bill seeks to achieve is to simplify the language, to simplify the readability for a common man to understand what he is supposed to comply with, and what are his obligations, and what are the concessions and benefits which he can get. So those have been shifted to the tables and the charts to make it easy to understand. But there is no challenge, I mean, change with respect to the policy of the government. There may come that policy change happens every year, depending on the demand or representation made by the industry associations or the consumer association or the society, social groups. The government listens to them and does amendment every year. That will continue to happen. Vedika, you are not audible. Vedika, you are not audible. I could not hear you.
You are on mute, ma'am. Please unmute your mic.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Maybe I mean, you check your that audio, that thing. Maybe it is switched off. I can't hear you at all.
Sir, I had one question in this regard.
Yes.
Sir, how effective is the income tax bill's attempt at plain English drafting and removing ambiguities which was there, say in the 1961 Act, or which is generally found in tax legislations in general?
I believe it is achieve. I mean, with respect to the simplification, if I talk about uh, just just looking at the volume, the existing Income Tax Act had 5,12,535 words, which has got reduced to 5,59,676 words. So almost the weight and size of the act has been reduced to half. It has reduced by 2,52,859 words. There were 47 chapters in the existing Income Tax Act, which has been reduced to 23. Section wise, if you talk about, there were 819 sections. Now you may ask me as to how this 819 sections I am talking about, because if you look at the act, there are only, I guess, 298 sections. But there are several sections which are followed by the new numbers. For example, 115 itself has 119 sections. Just imagine, 115 starts with 115, then 115A, then it goes on up to 115 WM. So there are 119 section in 115 itself. Then you see section 18, chapter 6A. I mean, it starts from 80, then it goes up to 80 double VA. Similarly, section 92. So there are, you see, several sections which are alphanumeric, and so there were total of 819 sections, which has been reduced to 536. Then you see there were several provisos and explanation. There were 1200 provisos and 900 explanations, which has been totally replaced and done away with. They have been replaced by subsections in the act itself instead of provisos and explanation. And the language which has been used is comparatively common. The language which we use in the, I mean, on a day-to-day basis, the common man's language. For example, notwithstanding anything contained has been replaced with irrespective of anything contained. In accordance with has been replaced by with as per. As may be prescribed has been replaced with prescribed. And there are various, you see, tables and formulas have been introduced to succinctly convey what the lawmakers wishes to or intends to convey. So instead of, you see, convey something which requires just a specification of a table, which we find in the various, you see, ready references which we buy and then refer to instead of the act. So most of the things which the job which was being done by the tax referencer books has been done by the government itself. So why refer to the tax, I mean, the referencer book? The act itself, the government itself has done a lot of job, which was the job of the tax practitioner. And there has been consolidation of the amendment, reducing fragmentation. There is a removal of the obsolete and redundant provision for greater clarity. And also, there is a reorganization of the sections logically. So instead of the fragmented law, where you see one related provision is at one place and then the related provision is a different place and there is a cross-referencing. So all provisions which are logically catering to the same group, they are placed together for the easier reference. So I believe it has achieved a lot of its objective with it intended to do, but nevertheless, we'll know over a period of time through the interpretation and through the judicial how much of the litigation is reduced to know whether it has actually met the intended objective.
Sir, now, as you have said, there have been quite a few changes. So, during this transition from the old regime to the new regime, what are the biggest hurdles do you think tax professionals and chartered accountants would face?
So I believe the tax professionals should not call it a challenge or anything, any such thing. Rather, I should say that tax professionals should look at it as an opportunity to learn the law afresh, to go to the old jurisprudence, to go to the old act, and compare it word by word with the new law. Because ultimately, in my understanding, you see, more than the going through the judgments, which we more often than not do to interpret the provision, it is more important to read the bare act and the rules again and again. And I think this change of the law has given the professionals an opportunity to read the act word by word again and again, to understand as to what has changed. So as far as the professionals are concerned, they should look it as an opportunity rather than a struggle or challenge. As far as the common man is concerned, I think the challenge will lie more in the forms which will be changed, because many of them has got accustomed to filing their return on their own. I see many of the even the salary taxpayers or the educated engineers or the professionals who file their return on their own instead of relying on their chartered accountants. So once there is a change in the form, then the challenge will lie in the learning of it. But I guess most of it will be drop down menu driven, and which particularly the younger generation will be very quick to pick up. It is the older generation who will, find a little difficulty in understanding the new portal and the new forms and everything. So I guess that is the challenge for the society, more in the manner in which the law is implemented, rather than, I think, with respect to the law. Because understanding of the law, because of the language change and the manner in which it has been presented, it has become simpler for a common man to understand.
So with this, do we end today's discussion, sir? As in the next week, the next
We can
webinar, we'll delve.
we can continue with one or more one or two related questions, and then we conclude. We conclude by another 10 minutes. We can continue discussion for another 10 minutes.
So one question which I had was when I was going through the income tax bill, that is, there's a concept of the tax period which has been brought into place, replacing
Correct.
the assessment year and the financial year, sir. So do you think it would be any problem as such for the professionals who are used to the financial year and assessment year, and now they have everything combined, like both of it combined in a tax year? If you could
Not
kindly,
at all.
if you could, sir, kindly give us an insight into the concept of tax period, the assessment year, and the previous year.
You see, in my opinion, the change which has been done is a very welcome change. Because despite practice for so many years, it was always confusing as to, because you see, in the existing Income Tax Act, the computation app of the income has to be done with respect to the previous year. Previous year is the year in which the income is earned. So the computation of income is done with respect to the provision applicable to the previous year. But the tax rates, exemption, deduction, and all that are as applicable to the assessment year. So this always led to some confusion or other. If you find the tax rate, it goes to the assessment year. Now everything is uniform. You earn income in the tax year, and the rates and the provisions are also as applicable to the tax year. So there is no confusion whatsoever. And then you see, obviously, as in the previous era or in the current era, the return will be filed obviously after the end of the tax year, which coincides with the financial year. So there is less complexity. Earlier, something was linked to previous year, something was linked to assessment year. So there was a whole lot of confusion even to the seasoned professionals. But now I believe that confusion will be gone, and it will be much easier to refer to the financial year and file your return accordingly. Tax year, and file your return accordingly.
Just one more question, sir. Sir, in the Income Tax Act of 1961, the definition of income, it it was a very wide definition. So has that been continued, or the definition of income has it been, the ambiguities have been removed in the definition? Because it was a very wide definition, and there were few clauses which created confusion. So is there any change with respect to the definition of income in the new bill?
See, obviously there is a change in the manner in which everything has been dealt with. But to answer your question, I believe we will do a chapter by chapter discussion in the coming session with respect to the technical provisions. So how income is computed, what is the change, and the related aspects under each head of income. We will discuss it session by session instead of cramming it in one session. So those technical aspects, I believe we'll leave it to the next sessions.
Okay, sir.
Just Shyam this side. Sir, I
Yes,
just request, please add in next session residential status as well. What complications that we face in the Income Tax Act while deciding the residential status, especially for non-residential NR. So please add that session, that topic in the next session as well.
Yes, yes. You see, what we intend to do is that we will discuss it chapter by chapter, provision by provision.
Okay.
So we will try to cover each and every provision, each and every aspect of the Income Tax Act as to how it is today, what is the jurisprudence with respect to the law as it is interpreted today, how much will it continue to apply to the new law. So we will discuss it threadbare.
Done, sir, done. Thanks.
Thank you. So any other question?
There are no other questions in the comment section as well, sir.
Okay, then let us conclude today.
Okay, sir.
We'll continue it next week.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.